Terence Crawford is still talking about the controversy with Tank that happened in Brooklyn. The boxing world was shocked when Davis faced his former amateur rival, Roach, in a lightweight world title fight. Even though Davis was the favorite, the fight did not go as expected, making fans and fighters question the final result. However, Roach has now shared that during their talk in the ring, Tank made a prediction that meant much more than just words. Let's look at the details.
For some points in that fight, but I believe we won that fight. Clearly, we should be two-time world champion right now.
Davis was in big trouble in the 9th round when he suddenly dropped to one knee. It was clearly a knockdown, but surprisingly, the referee didn't count it. This decision played a big role in the final result, as the fight ended in a draw. If the knockdown had been counted correctly, Roach would have won the round 10-8, which might have been enough for him to win the fight. After the match, chaos broke out. Fans and fighters were angry, but the loudest voice was Terence Crawford. The pound-for-pound champion quickly spoke out, posting an angry rant on social media that made the controversy even bigger.
Yeah, that was bullshit. It should have been called a knockdown. You can't take a break like that. The only person that can do that is the referee. The referee can stop the action and say, hey, let me take.
Crawford first posted that Roach should have won and that the knockdown should have been counted. When the fight was declared a draw, his frustration grew even more. He wrote, "They robbed that boy, and it's crazy. I've never seen someone take a knee and not have it counted as a knockdown. They must have forgotten the rules tonight." But he didn't stop there. Crawford brought up an old boxing moment to prove his point. He told fans to watch Floyd Mayweather versus Genaro Hernandez, where Mayweather took a knee because of a hand injury, and it was still counted as a knockdown, even though it wasn't from a punch. Recently, Crawford also claimed that Tank knew exactly what he was doing. He said Tank thought he could play around and still win, but fans weren't fooled. Crawford suggested that even if the judges wanted to give Tank the win, they had to settle for a draw because it was so obvious who really won. Roach even said that Tank told him mid-fight he would lose because they weren't going to give him the win. Crawford believes this should be looked into. How can a fighter get hurt and still be so sure he'll win? Crawford wasn't the only one speaking out. The whole boxing community is still talking about the controversy, with many believing Roach was unfairly denied a victory. Despite everything, Davis kept his undefeated record and still holds the WBA lightweight world title. But the controversy has overshadowed the result. Even though there were talks of a rematch, Davis has already shut them down, making it clear he's not interested in fighting Roach again. It was a tough night for him, and while he kept his record, the criticism from fans and fighters hasn't stopped.
Taking the knee, and then being addressed in the corner with the towel, wiping away. Like, I've never known that to be in any rule book in any state or country.
The moment that started the controversy is still the biggest topic of discussion. According to boxing rules, if a fighter's knee touches the canvas, it must be counted as a knockdown. There is no debate. However, in this fight, the referee ignored it, and that decision had huge consequences. Roach was understandably angry after the fight, feeling robbed of a life-changing victory. He believed he had already done enough to win, even without the knockdown. But knowing
this guy is in front of me, he's taking it. I think it was too late. I thought it was disappointing that it didn't draw.
After the fight, Roach shared his thoughts, shocked by what had happened. He said, "Honestly, I thought I should have won even without the knockdown being counted. Look, I'm not the ref, and if he had to wipe sweat from his eye, then he had to. But the rules clearly say that if you voluntarily take a knee, it's an automatic 8 count. His words only confirmed what many in the boxing world were already thinking. According to the rulebook, Davis's knee touching the ground should have led to an 8 count. Instead, the referee let him continue without any penalty, which ultimately resulted in a...
That Keyshawn has going against Tank? Yeah, he's a great boxer. He sounds a great boxer, and he got power behind him. So I can see that fight just being an entertaining fight. He sounds an entertainer, like you said. Tank comes in there and tries to knock you out. I can see that fight just being entertained and, doing later rounds.
To reflect on his performance, saying, "It is what it is. I wasn't relying on that. I was relying on what I was doing in there. I was taking control, landing more shots, more power shots, and I thought I was doing my thing. So I'm not really that frustrated, but if that knockdown had been counted, I would have won by majority decision. His frustration was clear, and for good reason. It's not every day a fighter gets the chance to defeat an undefeated star like Davis. For Roach, this was a once-in-a-lifetime moment. The fact that he fought so well only to have such an important moment ignored.
When you heard the decision?
Nobody like a draw, you know, from a guy that get knockouts and things like that, but it's cool. I feel like if we fight again, I could do more.
Eyes, which forced him to take a knee. However, this explanation did little to calm the controversy, as fans and fighters weren't convinced. Many pointed out that the reason didn't matter. What mattered was that his knee touched the canvas, and the referee should have counted it. Now, Davis is facing heavy criticism. His undefeated record remains, but at what cost? Many fans are questioning whether he truly deserved to avoid a loss, and some are even calling for an immediate rematch to settle the dispute.
Your future?
Yeah, it definitely changed my plans. It definitely changed my plans. I probably got like 4 more fights now, for sure.
Fans completely agree with Crawford, furious that Davis was spared from what should have been a clear knockdown in the 9th round. One fan wrote, "Robbed in broad daylight, man, with cameras in every corner." Another said, "It should be a knockdown. Roach won that." A third added, "Damn, all sports are getting rigged, SMH." Even a Davis supporter admitted, "Yeah, I'm a huge Tank fan, but I can't defend this. I've never seen anything like this before. Wild." Another fan called it a shame they robbed an underdog, while disappointing as it is for a fighter to give their best and still end up on the wrong side of a decision, Roach Jr. said he wasn't too upset. He admitted that this is just how boxing works. "I'm not totally upset. I figured with a superstar, you won't get too much on paper," Roach Jr. said. "But I really thought I had it. Especially when they announced the score for him, I was like, oh, they're going to give me a split decision. I thought, here it comes. But as soon as I heard 114-114, I was just like, damn." Roach Jr. not getting the win is even harder to accept when you consider what happened in the 9th round and how 2 of the 3 judges scored the fight.
What were you guys saying to each other? It felt like more than any of your other fights. It was a lot of jawing in the ring.
Just trash talking a little bit. You know what I mean? We didn't get too crazy, but...
There was what Davis said to Roach Jr. during the fight. If Tank knew Roach wasn't going to get the decision, what does that really mean? Fighters talk trash all the time, but this wasn't just normal back and forth. Tank wasn't saying he was winning. He was saying Roach wouldn't get the decision. He sounded like someone who already knew how the night would end. Did Davis feel like something was already set in place? Did he know that no matter how close the fight was, the judges wouldn't give Roach the win? Maybe it was just confidence, or maybe it was something more.
But were you surprised, because I know everybody else was, that Roach could take your power because you were throwing bombs in some of those rounds?
Yeah, it was cool.
This isn't the first time a fight decision has been questioned, but this one felt different. A close fight is one thing, but not counting a clear knockdown? A superstar fighter taking a knee in the middle of a round and getting his face wiped while the referee just watches? A fighter straight up telling his opponent he won't win, and then sure enough, he doesn't. That's why fans are upset. That's why Crawford spoke out. This wasn't just a bad decision. It was a moment that made people question whether the sport was truly fair.
But I didn't want to get caught while my eyes was burning. And you know, like, you can get knocked out like that. So I'd rather take the knee than, you know. But I didn't really know that you can, like, get disqualified for all that. Or, like, when you start counting, I'm like, what the hell?
This comes after Terence Crawford recently shared his thoughts on who he believes will finally end Tank Davis's undefeated record. As a pound-for-pound great, Crawford understands how boxing politics work, but when it comes to actual fights, he's confident that Tank won't stay undefeated if he faces Gervonta or Shakur Stevenson. Crawford's comments weren't just about picking winners, they were a statement. He believes Tank knows the challenge ahead if he ever steps into the ring with real threat.
Better to fight. I think I did what I needed to do necessary to bank the rounds, and even without the knee, that should have been a knockdown. So, I don't think there's any excuse for me not to win tonight, but that's just how
Tank has carefully planned his career, choosing fights that almost guarantee him a highlight reel knockout while avoiding the real dangers in the division. Crawford, who has built his legacy by facing the best and winning in dominant fashion, sees right through it. He made it clear Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta have the mental toughness, ring IQ, and skill to break Tank down, not just for a few rounds, but for an entire fight. That's the difference. Fighters like Ryan Garcia.
What was the plan originally?
I think he was here.
Tank gonna do him.
He came in my locker room.
Shakur Stevenson?
He wasn't in my locker room.
Great call.
Next question.
Stevenson is a master technician, rarely taking damage and always controlling the pace of his fights. His ability to adapt, stay calm under pressure, and frustrate opponents makes him a dangerous matchup for Tank. He wouldn't get into a slugfest. Instead, he'd pick Tank apart round by round, making him look lost. The way Tank loads up on his punches and fights in bursts plays right into Stevenson's hands. Fighters who rely too much on power often struggle when they can't land clean shots. Crawford knows it, Tank knows it, and anyone who understands boxing knows it too. Then there's Gervonta. Some might say he's still developing, but
at this point, I don't care. But I'm telling you, if you give me either or before they rematch, I'm fucking their rematch up. They getting put. I'm telling you, I ain't even playing. I ain't playing, bro. I'm young. I'm on fire. I'm young and I'm on fire.
Stevenson is a master.
Fans might dismiss Crawford's words as just another fighter talking, but there's a reason Tank isn't actively chasing a fight with Stevenson or Gervonta. He knows the risks. That doesn't mean he's scared, but it does show how carefully his career has been managed for years. If Tank truly believed he was the best, he would have fought Vasily Lomachenko years ago, when the hype was at its peak. Instead, he let that fight fade away and waited until Lomachenko started slowing down. Now, with Stevenson and Keyshawn emerging as real threats, the same pattern is happening. What makes this even more controversial is that Tank has always marketed himself as a knockout artist who would take on anyone. But if that's true, why are the most skilled fighters being avoided? Crawford's words hit hard because they exposed something many fans don't want to admit. Tank is being protected, whether by his team, his promoters, or even himself.
Come on, man, tell me what belt. You know boxing. You forgot Devin Haney is undisputed. Devin Haney got all the belts. He the champ. Nobody else the champ. I'm going to come up here where the big boys at.
If the fight against Roach proved anything, it's that Tank is not untouchable. He was given the benefit of the doubt when the referee ignored a clear knockdown, and even his own supporters struggled to defend what happened. Now, imagine if that fight had been against Stevenson or Gervonta. There wouldn't have been a chance to recover. The moment Tank was in trouble, they would have pressed forward and completely taken over. That's the reality Crawford sees, and it's why he's confident that Tank's first loss is only a matter of time. The irony in all of this is that Crawford and Tank aren't even in the same division. Yet, Crawford's words carry weight because he speaks from experience. He's faced top-level competition, taken risks, moved up in weight, fought the best.
Face of boxing, what do you think?
For sure, he's the face of boxing. I don't have no problem with saying that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he deserves everything that's coming to him. He's the face of boxing for sure.
He's still fighting opponents who don't pose a real threat to him. It's a completely different approach to the sport, and Crawford calling it out makes it impossible to ignore. If Tank truly wants to prove he's the best, there's only one way to do it. Fight Stevenson or Gervonta. No catchweights, no excuses, just a straight-up fight against someone with the skills to match him. Until that happens, the doubts will remain, and Crawford's words will continue to haunt him. Because at the end of the day, being an undefeated knockout artist means nothing if the right names aren't on your resume.
If that would happen, no, you sparred with him, correct?
Yeah.
So you and Tank, if that would have happened.
I feel like me and Tank fight how it would go would be like electrifying. Like me and him are both mean, aggressive, we bullies in the ring, you know, like we.
Stevenson reacted to Tank's controversial draw against Lamont Roach by reaffirming his desire to fight him. He made it clear that he's still ready and willing to take on Davis, seeing the fight as inevitable. Stevenson also revealed that he had bet $5,000 on the fight going the distance, which he won, further proving his confidence in predicting Tank's performance. His reaction suggested that he saw weaknesses in Davis that he could exploit in a future fight. Keyshawn Davis, on the other hand, had an even stronger response. He dismissed both Tank and Roach, boldly claiming he would knock them both out. His confidence and eagerness to step into the ring with Tank have fueled speculation that he could be next in line for a major showdown.
It's either you or Keyshawn's gonna get Tank, so the walls are closing in. So awesome. It's gonna be him though. It makes sense. He's closer.
Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis publicly calling out Tank and his controversial performance against Roach, talk of a showdown with either fighter is gaining momentum. Fans are now pushing for these matchups, believing it's time for Tank to prove himself against elite competition. The controversy surrounding the draw has only made these potential fights even more exciting. Will Tank take on the challenge, or will he continue to avoid these dangerous opponents? Let us know your thoughts.
I'm talking about the opponent. The opponent. I just don't like how this guy.
With both Stevenson and Keyshawn